What's up? You live. And if you're live, and I'm live, and we both live, or you're live and I'm live too. Deuxième. I don't know live in French. Makes sense. I only learned French in school. So I'm Elliot. And you are Elliot too. Deuxième. That means second. I always want to say deuxième like it's like another, because I just like the sound of deuxième. Anyways, I'm in a particularly rebellious mood today. And really, for me, that's saying something. Really, for me, that's saying a fuck lot. And I want to preface that a little bit. So today, in the Dream Spell lunar calendar, and if you don't know what that is, there's if you go into your browser, at the top, there's what we used to put www into, but now all browsers just use that as a search bar. So if you enter that, you put your cursor there, and then you get that little flashing line. You can type in things like Dream Spell and figure shit out. And I mean that facetiously and fucking literally, because my pet peeve is people impressing their issues on others without trying their darndest to solve it for themselves. If my pet was like a velociraptor. So today is Yellow Lunar Warrior, and I'll spare you all that, but it's kin 236, and my mother, that's my mother's galactic signature. It is the year of the red cosmic moon, and that is kin 169. And that's my father's galactic signature. My galactic signature is kin 37, red spectral earth. And coincidentally, which I guess really actually points to the rhythm of the fabric, the strings, yeah? In 7 days, it will be kin 243, and that is my galactic signature according to the Mayan long count. So basically, the Dream Spell was channeled by Jose Juarez. And so there's an opportunity for rift and division, just as there's an opportunity for that wherever you look. And basically, it takes the Mayan long count or Mayan astrology, and it fucks with it a little bit. Long story short, again, would you like to know more? There's this little thing. It looks white on most browsers, and then you just type in shit and figure it out. That's how I learned everything. Well, so I learned a lot. And anyways, so in a week, it's solar night, blue solar night. And that is my, my Mayan astrology, A sign. So it's all really fun, and meaningless, completely meaningless, except for the meaning that I give it. and I fill shit up, so it's meaningful, like super meaningful, up and away. And that frames or creates some context for this because one, maybe it's like a little like, that's curious, I want to know more about myself, and then you go and figure that shit out too. Which, oh God, that would bring us together no matter what. Oh yeah, hey Debbie. Woo, woo. Babe, you basically, like, the first time you like pseudo swore in the chat, like you had me, you had me. Yeah, so in creating context for building meaning and connection, we live in this world with so many words and all these spells, and they try and spell out this thing called scarcity. And I think I first learned it in any kind of asphalty kind of way in school. You know, it's like economics, which is really economy, which is really like the distribution of efficacies and efficiencies, which is like rooted in the eco and has nothing to do with money, but it's been made to mean the same thing. And it's like it's the supply and demand curve, scarcity versus supply. Oh yeah. And it is complete and utter bullshit unless you derive all your meaning from it. And to do that, you kind of have to take things at a glance and then not look deeper. So I don't know how to do that, not look deeper. It's been the cause of much chagrin and suffering. But that's my bag too, Elliot. Whoa. And like that's the preamble, and now I'm just gonna hit it fast and hard because I want to make another video in my rebellious mood, breaking things. Actually, you know what? And that makes me want to share something that I said yesterday that you're saying now, which is we are all a little bit and a lot communicating, like very really with each other. And we can talk about the different realms and the manners by which that like takes its form. And that's actually more or less what my next video is about, speaking about it in like general applications. But I got one. It's a little tiny, but it's firm. I'm Guyanese, you know, got that Caribbean booty. And and now you know. I have a lot of love, and it's like it's heart opening to realize that we're all kind of like not just in this together, but like in this together, being like, what do you think? It's like, I think this. It's like, and we're talking in our mind in like that, like first, second, third person. In actuality, we may and are likely speaking like very really with someone, and maybe a lot of people. And the beauty and gorgeousness of this like 3D realm is to take that. The beauty of this like now moment is to realize that, to realize that, and make it more dense, so that we can kind of know that ephemerally, and then we're here and we hear each other's voices, and we connect with each other in this density. And it's like, I know we were already already together. I know we were already communicating. I know we were already saying the same thing. But God fucking damn, hearing you say it and hearing your voice, like I didn't know it could feel even better, you know? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, oh yeah. I think maybe you're right. I would though, right? We're like doing it, the same thing. So back to like the quick dispel thing, because if I take too long, then I'm just gonna like say fuck it to the next video, and I really, really want to get to it. In fact, I'm probably making this video because I really want to make that video, and the way that I get myself to do things is basically have a goal, and then I don't know, like there's things that I like have. I'm like fuck, but I really kind of need to do this first, and so I do the things that I feel like I need to do first because it's on the way to where I want to go. And scarcity is so bullshit. So let's just like hit that hard. First, what's like the most scarce thing when people think scarcity? I feel like culturally it's oil. Uh, and let's just use that as like a starting point. Uh, there is so much fucking oil. Oh shit, I froze. Did I say like the magic word? Or maybe it's actually just my vibe. So okay, I still look frozen there, but oh, and I'm back. Uh, there's no scarcity in oil. There's no scarcity in oil. There's so much that we use it for everything and anything, and there's no slowing down, and there's no attempts to slow down. And like we tell each other on like in like the social sphere that it's like we're not slowing down, but that's a bad thing. It's because we're not really listening. No, it's actually because there's no there's no cause in that regard because there's so much fucking oil. If you don't believe me, there's this little search bar at the top. You just like type questions and keep asking, you find answers. But let's keep going. There's like scarcity in water. Does there look like there's fucking scarcity in water? No, man, there's no scarcity in water. But it's like fresh water, Elliot. We're running out of fresh water, and that's the water we need to live. I'm super down with people believing stupid shit so long as they don't use it to like meaningfully do stupid shit. And the reality of the scarcity of water is like, I think it was like a 14-year-old that developed the technology to clean essentially any water, any and all water, simply, cheaply, and affordably. That means salt water, but that also means like all water. Like that's in existence, which means it's always existed, which means there ain't no fucking scarcity of water. What else is there scarce? What inspired the thought of scarcity? Oh, one of my other pet peeves, like homelessness, and like land and resources and places to live and shit like that. Like none of that is scarce. Like an interesting little like tidbit I came across once upon a time and verified in connecting it with everything else that I know is that if you take the number of people that there are in the world, and there aren't 7 billion people in the world, but let's just fucking use that fake ass number, and then you take how much like just livable land, you know, like cordon off the Amazon and the deserts, the Sahara, you know, and the Arctic and all the places that we can't live accordingly. And then you just divvy that up between all the people in the world. Like, I don't know, I think everybody gets like 40 acres or something like that. Like there's just so much fucking space that shit ain't scarce either. I'm gonna come, I'm always with you. Scarcity of energy. I hit that with the oil a little bit, but it's like, oh, like how are we going to the solar power and the wind power and the geothermal power. Like, did you just hear the words coming out of my mouth? It sounds like we've got fucking power coming out the wazoo. And the problem is really monetizing it. So let's talk about the scarcity of money. There's as much money in the world as there are like cubiles. Now, what's a cubicle, you ask me? Well, a cubicle is a word I just took a moment to make up, because that's money. You know, it like I don't know, research. I guess research is a good word, because like you search and then you keep searching a lot. But it like was a long time ago that like it occurred to me that, and it was like an affront to my sensibilities, that like all of our issues and our problems are always framed in this reference of like, but it costs money, or like we need this much money, or like the bullshit charities. And I'm not going to go too much in that. It's just, if charities actually were effective, then there wouldn't be charities. It's like, if we just get this much money, it's like, that's not a real thing. What is money supposedly representing? Us? Well, then there's as many of us as we need. Oh, this is what inspired me. I'm going to say this part and then I'm going to come at you. And because I just like reading your words. I like reading your spells. Education. There is no fucking scarcity in education. Like, a part of building this like controller paradigm was the compartmentalizing of learning. Like, it's not a mistake or an error that these places of learning were called universities, right? And when you think of the word like universe and city is also siddhi, which in like the Yoga Sutras in like Vedic texts are like the divine powers, right? And in a way, those are distinctions of the all. Like, as you grow in your power, you become power, and you can individuate power and exemplify them, because, well, like you're coming from the most small and you're coming from the most large, and along the way to yourself, you can kind of be like, okay, well, now I'm just going to be this part. Now I'm going to be just this part. And it all sounds really crazy, but it's not, because everything known can be experienced. Otherwise, I don't know, it wouldn't be imagined. I can't even think of like an analogy that would contradict that. Oh yeah. So this is my 2 cents on your validity. So in trying to poison our water, they are trying to create the paradigm that water is poisonable. All right. In destroying our rainforests, that has been like a campaign, like a controller campaign, very much over the last like 200-300 years. What kind of brought me to that realization wasn't actually so long ago, because it was just along the path of my learning. But I was looking at trees, and I look at the trees in like my neighborhood, and I'm grateful to live in Toronto, and as far as cities go, we have a lot of trees. We have a lot of like park areas, and like the land was tradition. What used to be a marshland, what was before that, whatever. Uh, and trees get pretty big, but like, why aren't they bigger? You know, most of the trees are less than a couple hundred years old, and then you kind of do a little research, and then it's like the oldest trees are like I think the oldest is like 5,000 years old, and that's all kind of bullshit because how we determine how old things are is using a method that's like that radiocarbon dating. Like the guys that more or less established that opportunity, like in their abstract was like, this is not reliable. So of course, like control paradigm ran with it. But like, where are all the fucking older trees? Like, why aren't there like lots of old trees? Like what happened on the earth? And I don't mean some kind of like natural disaster catastrophe. I mean some inventive, imaginative creation of destruction that destroyed all the trees. And really, my secret theory is that the earth is the earth is essentially water world right now. If you remember that movie with Kevin Costner that was like supposedly bombed because it cost a lot of money and didn't make a lot of money, but I actually really liked it. And I saw it in theaters with my cousins when I was like that age and whatever, and it was like a lovable experience. I remember it was like my first time where I had to sit in a movie theater way too fucking close to the screen, and I was like, actually, this isn't that bad. Whoa, it's a lot of water. But I think that the powers that love, as in the powers that be, with all the flooding and whatever, I think that a great deal of the Earth's surface is covered in ocean because a great deal of the surface of the Earth is just still covered by water because they were like, fuck that. Like, we're going to give you a couple islands and sort your shit out. So that's where maybe the bigger trees are. And same with the rain, right? Like I think that rain is divine, and because it is, much technology and effort has gone towards fucking it up. But here's the secret to beingness, and really, it's like retroductively super rational. Like when we are of that which is all, whatever of is what is of that would, I want to say, mundanely adapt so as to continue in allegiance to that which it is. So acid rain, fucking sulfur, the shit they spray in the air, blah, 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 like all the carbon dioxide and whatnot, which is actually really not, like, there's an issue with like the, I want to say molecular composition of our atmosphere, but it's not the fucking carbon dioxide. If you're familiar with like the term terraforming, it's a little bit like what we're experiencing is the Earth is like really poorly being attempted to be terraformed. And what we call the healthy composition of atmosphere is not our healthy composition of atmosphere. Like, I want to venture that that ideally there would be more nitrogen, perhaps more argon, and really just less oxygen. And I retroductively kind of go there because what do the controller energies do? All they do is they fucking like flaunt. It's like oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. Do you know what the most poisonous gas in the world is? Oxygen. Like to humanity, to humans. I learned this from an anime, but it's true. So what the fuck? Basically, like, if you take the air that you breathe, and what is it? It's like, I can't remember. It's like, basically, if you take the oxygen content like to a certain level, I can't remember if it's up or down. Like I'm just not recalling. Like it'll fucking kill you, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. Yeah, man. The fucking Jolly Green guy, he wakes up in the morning, steps out of his can, and just fucking the Jolly Green Giants cutting down the trees because they make him feel small. It's like, I'm big. Damn it. Don't remind me. And actually, if you want to know another secret, because I'm in that fucking mood today, the main reason I think that they destroyed the trees is because of the way that twofold. One, the way that trees and really anything, but especially living things, refract light. Because it's like if you take a glass of water and you shine like a beam of light through it, the beam will go. That's actually good. Okay, the beam will go like here, and then as it goes into the water, it'll kind of go like this, because it's slowing down, right? And then here, it'll continue on its path, like it's speeding up, and that's just stupid. It's like what made it speed back up right here? Like, is there like a force here that's like, and go? No, that's bullshit. It's just light behaves differently in different mediums, and so like our shadows are not the, and this is actually the most intelligent definition of shadow that I've come across, and it's still not even that. We can go deeper. Shadow is not just the privation of light. It's shadow is actually kind of like the transmutation of light. It's like after the light passes through me, as it re-enters the medium, it's been changed and expresses itself differently. And that's kind of how the truth of the holographic universe works, is we are all kind of shadows, but in the most like loving way. And in a manner of speaking, as opposed to like our shadows seem less dense than us, like the opposite is also true. In a medium, like light passing through a medium can be projected and thusly create density. Hence, our third dimensionality. This is all kind of going into what I'm going to share next after a little brekkie. But I guess this actually brings me back to kind of like the topic share. Nobody's paying me to do this, and I don't need to be paid to do this, or desire really to be paid to do this. Like, learning and teaching are really synonymous, and when we're not conditioned to confuse gossiping as education, and we don't confuse intelligence with puking. By that I mean regurgitation, right? Then like I don't need anything. I don't need anything to learn and teach except that which I've learned and been taught, and my heartbeat. So when we look at a world and it's like, well, like education should be free. It's like, no. Education shouldn't be free. Education is free. When you go to university, when you go to college, when you take a course, when you do like, that's not costing anything to like it's not costing a resource that's scarce. We're collaring the access to that and creating scarcity. And this takes us into kind of different tangents, all really interesting and valid. But the sum is scarcity. Scarcity is a word. So like it's like an invention describing a concept that is also an invention to create relation to context that is also an invention. And all of that's really cool and actually like opportunistic in like, yeah, I mean, even in the joyous good sense, except that it's all been done in a manner motivated by, I don't know, it gets complicated, but it just doesn't serve us. Like, I don't know if this applies, but I don't know. It's the thought I had, so I'm going to share it. And then I'm gonna read you, and then I'm gonna eat, and then I'm gonna come back. The whole 5G thing. I have a lot. I don't know a lot. There's not a lot that needs to be said about that shit. But for me, the most impressing aspect to the whole fucking thing, and because like, and this is what I'm going to speak to in the next video. It's essentially it's just explaining the truth of light, sound, frequencies, like reconciling those things, so as to be useful to us on this ascension journey. But for me, like the most like remarkable thing is, and truly it's part of the motivation of doing it, is like I look around and it's not like they're throwing up them like especially crazy in my city, but they're popping up everywhere, and everybody's got their 5 cents about it, and everybody's more like, I haven't ever heard, I've yet to hear someone really be like, I think 5G is a great thing. I'm really glad they're doing it. Like, I haven't heard that yet. I think I've heard it something along those lines in like legalese, in like when I, watching some reporting video of like a conversation in not Congress, whatever bullshit bureaucratic room of like, this is how we're covering our asses, because covering our asses is a thing that we invented so that we can basically shave yours. Like, I look around, it's like, guys, isn't the most pressing thing being like, basically they can do whatever they want and you won't do anything? Right? Like, I see these fucking like sets of 5 giant fucking like cell towers on the tops of like the rows of my, like in my apartment building complex, and I'm like, any one of us could just go to the roof and take that shit down, right? Like, they don't fight back. They don't. We can just take them down, right? So maybe in dispelling scarcity, I'll close like my share, and then I want to be shared with, and then we'll go. For now, is consent. Like, the scarcity of the realization of consent. Like, there's a lot, like, that's not even there's a lot more choice. Like, there's choice. And it can't be tyrannical, but all of us can be our own leaders and follow and lead each other. Like, these apartment buildings, like, I think the first ones went up, I don't even know, like maybe a year ago or so, maybe a little longer. And like, the balconies that are underneath them are all like rusted, like consistently. Like you see, like, I'm just like, oh, that's really curious. Like like they're visibly destroying their atmosphere, like their environment, their atmosphere. And because I know, and I can, because I, in with my, well, I guess we'll call astral sight, but it's really just my fucking sight, developed. Basically, the harm that these things do is, all they do is they create like incoherence. They take like the light spectrum from the cosmos, and they create like a jumble of frequency that doesn't mean anything. And in doing so, it hurts. Now, they're not stronger than the cosmos. So, and I've seen it change. Basically, like, the environment that these things have an effect on has basically shrunk as our grid has been repaired and healed, and our love is spread, right? That's essentially what these things are doing, which is essentially what all of like the 60 hertz frequency, the 24 frame rate television, like, that's what all of it is an attempt to do, is basically just have things not make sense. But love and the good, like, sensibility, is relentless. It's the unstoppable force, and love is the immovable object. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm like scrolling up and I'm like, right, I know, right? I'm reading backwards, but I'm like, it still feels in sequence. That's what love is. It's the same forward and back. Oh gosh. Okay. Some knowledge is like the closer to the truth, the more power you have. But the closer to the truth in the hands of the stupid, the stupid mistake anything and everything is absolute. And don't take responsibility for anything because they can't, because they don't even take responsibility really of their learning. It's like everything they know they were told. And granted, like everything I know I was more or less told, but that's not why I know it. Like I know it because I, dissected it and broke it and fixed it and put it back all together all inside me. So it's no longer where it was from, it's from here. And the stars and the planets, the galaxy and the universe, like like everything we've been told is a lie is like the mantra. But it's like it's it's so far removed from the truth that it's like everything we've been told is a lie about another lie that's still lying about what really is. And everything is alive. And everything wants to love you. Even acts of, I'm going to say retardation, because I mean it in the slowing way, destructively retarded, are misinterpretations of knowledge confused as absolute in attempts to feel loved. But because they put a cap on it, it becomes something, it doesn't even become its opposite. It becomes something altogether different because love is limitless. Even saying that, I need to create more understanding, because limitless, not in like a quantitative sense. Love cannot be measured. It's not a thing truly that that fills up to fullness, spills over, or can be, emptied of. Love is limitless in its flowing, in its distribution. Truly, the only limiting factor of loving is still an act of love, and that's choice. The only barrier we have to love and loving is choosing how much of it we want to try. And if they lay one hand on my moon, oh, yeah, 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 motherfucker. And really, my last cent on just again, because it's still the same dispelling, in the manner of time being more traversable than misunderstood, there's like nothing that really can be done that can also not be undone Therefore, there's nothing that really truly is that isn't in a manner infinite, but placed into finitude for the sake of the experience. So don't quote me, because then they'll find out. But I reckon, like, just basically everywhere along history, it's like, do this destructive thing, some like really higher up says, and then lower down the chain, they're like, yeah, okay, we're going to do this destructive thing because we're like we're going to be in control. But that really higher up is kind of like, it's really for the good. And I reckon that the 5G network is motivated by selfishness in in an ignorant, evil way. And it's totally going to be like hijacked by the good, because the good let it. Whether it's like the proverbial evil that like brings people together, which I can't stand that paradigm, and I will not get behind. I'll get in front of it though, yo. What up? 5G what? 7. Or much more likely, we'll just turn it to our purposes, because anything that can be made to sound like shit can be made to sound beautiful if you know how to play it. La, la. Okay, this is Tammy. I'm just like, I'm hitting. This is what. Okay, everything's alive. Planets, stars, the whole universe. True. They're racing to the moon for H3. Oh, I don't really know what H3 is. 5G is meant for more mind control. If we get true, and it's not going to work except for the people that have no minds, and then their brains will get blown up, and it's like we won't miss them because they're mindless. Oh yeah, fucking asshole. That's true. Everything is alive with energy force. Yes. Shadow is us in a different dimension. Yes. I believe that's how we're being controlled. I'm not being controlled, but that is the attempt. Everything on the earth except media products are God-given. Everything is God-given, because the love of God is no judgment. Like, if you actually really study sacred scripture, it's more or less explicit that like, why does God let the world be so shit? It's because God doesn't judge, and that's really useful to use when it serves you. But like, God doesn't serve when you're an ass. Doesn't judge you when you're an asshole too. The flip, or the partnership of that is God gave judgment to us. God gave there's no judgment, because God was like judge each other, like be your own judges, and then ascertain justice, because God doesn't judge, but justice is divine. And the more you refine that, the more you find God. We shouldn't have to pay for electricity, rent, anything. It's all a pyramid scheme. Spiritual hierarchy has been hijacked because pyramids are beautiful, but there's no pyramid that doesn't have an inverse pyramid below it. and there's no pyramid that doesn't have pyramids within it. There's no pyramid that isn't completely comprised of pyramids, and the direction of like the sacred pyramidal direction of flow is top down in service and love. The top of the pyramid serves the lower and not the other way around, which is like one lie that can make a world of a fucked up difference. Having to pay to be by the in the sand in the ocean, like there's just some things that are like self-evidently fucked up. It's like, guys, why? What? It's like I'll help clean it if that's the cost for being here, but that's like, doesn't that kind of go hand in hand with like, I'm just not going to dirty it because I get to be here? But if I have to pay for it, and what I'm paying for is for it to be clean, then maybe I'm just going to litter because have my money go somewhere. Like, fucking, why am I going to fucking pick that up? I'm paying for that. Yes, pyramids buried all over the world that make for energy, buried by the grass even. But you're absolutely right. There's multiple purposes for chemtrails. I love that you said that. I reckon, Tammy, that you are not going to be by anything that hurts you for much longer. And I'm reckoning that we're all in a human experiment to ourselves. And I love games, and everything is mental. So I just don't like cruelty. And trickery that doesn't end in laughter is not my bag. My word spell dictionary is etymology dictionary, like online etymology dictionary.com. Super useful. I don't even look at the definition for thing or like how to spell things or anything like that using anything else. It's like, what does a word mean? If you can't know what a word mean if you don't know what it meant. And that's the same argument for the validity of knowing where we've been and where we come from. I'd say that too much knowledge is a curse, absolutely, because there's no such thing as too much knowledge except as the insatiable curse of believing that you don't already have enough. Because it's not really the knowledge that's too much, it's the insatiety. Insatiety? Insatiety. Shitty. And there ain't nothing that can quench that. But it will quench your fire. So you're only allowed to know what they want you to know is a lie. But they're like, it's like a super believable lie. And up until now, you pretty much were killed if you came to know shit like that because it was just so easy to know who knew what. But now you can know anything. You can know anything if you keep asking. And don't give a fuck about doing what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do. Allowed is like all ow. The word God, because you're questioning, I'll give you more questions. First of all, maybe more commonly known as just it's a title. I believe that it is not a mistake that it's an anagram of dog. When I think of things like Canis Major and Sirius the Dog Star. But importantly, it's and what's often it's and often forgiven is God is not a name; it's a title, and um, names have power. In my yoga classes, I often use the Shakespearean quote of a rose smelling it just as sweet by any other name, to relate our limitless beauty. And more recently, I've come to re-examine that understanding, because nothing is final. If like a rose was called by any other name would smell just as sweet, if a flower smelled just as sweet, could it be called anything but a rose? I think we find each other. And the the power in loosing the truth of consent is in hiding the names. It's like, just call me God, just call me sir, you know, because otherwise you'll find out who I am and then I'm fucked. Every word sticks like glue. I like that. Is there? I feel like there's a saying embedded in there. It's like sticks and stones, and then like made of glue, made of rubber, bouncing off me, bouncing off you. Words stick to us like glue. But the thing about words, the thing about words, is they're meaningless except for what we make them mean. And dispelling is one and the same as spelling. Greed and power has everything to do with a lack of taking responsibility. Yeah, I wouldn't make a very good thug. Yo, what you know about me? What you know about that? Yo. The hilarious thing is my whole life being like of ambiguous color, referencing that I was a flight attendant for 5 minutes and you have to fill out all kinds of forms. And one of the boxes is color, and it gives you options. And so what I ended up filling out was, as color, was medium. I'm medium color. And that, while that's hilarious, it's like, I would make a very good thug, but I've been treated like one my whole life. If all it takes is me walking down the street, and maybe it's a little dark. It's fucked up, but true. Helium 2. You're right. I'd never read. Oh no, that's not true. I read the Old Testament when I was a child, like a lot of it, but I'm like an insatiable reader, and it's all like stories. And when I was taught to read on like Bible stories, which I in hindsight recognize as divine. But everything has the meaning that you give it. I despise people that use the Bible to get away with anything stupid, which I mean evil, which I mean cruel. And then when you ask them about like, what is the Bible? Where did it come from? It's like the word of God. And it's like, okay, well, like, what does that mean? You don't know who wrote the Bible, do you? God wrote the Bible. Well, with whose hands? You ever heard of the Council of Mycenae? Do you know who Constantine is? No? Do you even know what a gospel is. No, good talk. And so like I've learned as much from the Bible as I've learned from like anime, which is to say, like I've learned a fucking lot about a lot from anything because you can't take all the truth out of anything. You know what? With the etymology dictionary, it's less a dictionary written in truth. It's like more a dictionary written that points to it. And you're all about magic. It's a good thing that we can't die. I would normally knock on wood on something like that, but now I just know too much. I want to take that to like the furthest extent. And then, Tammy, you are blessed for everything that you share because all of this relates to everything that I meant to say with this share, and I'm grateful that it's gone for as long as it has because it's more perfect now. Like I completely understand and relate to the really valid concern that we've all been praying to Satan this whole time. So the way I tackle most things is I start at the end and then I go backwards, and then I go to the beginning, and then I try and meet myself somewhere in the middle, and then I blah, 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 I go back and forth, back and forth. So what if we've been praying to Satan the whole time? It's like, well, that's bad. It's like, okay, well, like if that's bad, why is it bad? And then that might lead to like, well, who's Satan? And then that might lead to Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer, the devil. Are those all names for the same thing, or are all those different things? And then, well, if God is like a concept trying to like wrap the infinite, is Satan also a concept, or does it like is it something in finitude that is wrapped? And then and then they might go back to the beginning. It's like, well, why do we pray? If I'm praying to Satan, what am I praying to Satan for? I'm praying to Satan for the love and freedom of every being that I touch. Well, then, does it matter who we're praying to when we're praying for love with love? And then, does that maybe heal concepts of evil? These aren't answers, yeah? These are questions. These are just more questions as long as we keep going. Take everything that worries you and kill it until it doesn't worry you anymore. And kill it with your truth. Because the only thing that dies isn't true. So here's my 2 cents on that. We do have powers. We're fucking awesome and like ridiculously powerful. And all their attempts to cover up is creates by function an entity that those things couldn't stop. and it's like the 5 minute mile, or the 5 minute mile. It's the 5 minute mile. Yeah, it's like Ben. I don't remember his last name. Not the guy who did steroids, but the first man to run the mile in 5 minutes. It's like it can't be done. It can't be done. It's impossible. And then he did it. And then like over the next 6 months, like 8 other people did it. And then over the next year, like or 2 years, like 24 people had done it. So it's like, will sugar fuck you up? Yeah, man, sure. Fluoride fuck you up? Yeah, man, we'll like calcify and all that shit. Until it doesn't. With just like one person. And because that's actually the manner by which field modalities work, and everything is a field modality, everything is like pressure mediation of a medium, the medium being the ether, which is basically the dielectric plane, which is basically like if you create a vacuum, what is the vacuum of? The vacuum is a container in like the dielectric plane. Planets, not an error. I think my point was made there. I don't remember anymore. But like when you like sugar and fluoride are used to like hurt, and then they don't hurt. They don't hurt. Nothing is truly neutral. Everything is in a state of dynamic, dynamic expression. So once it stops hurting you, it starts. I'm loath to say, or like reluctant to say, helping you, but it starts moving in that direction. Even if it's just like, oh, this stuff, that means like, that's like, I'm getting cued by my environment to be more awesome. So here I am, like throwing like 4, tablespoons of sugar. Not really, but like just like loading it up because I'm like, yeah, man, sugar all around, guy. Let's be more awesome. Oh, so I gotta like start smiling. There you go. Oh, I love that synchronicity. You know what's really special about I'll share a connection with you with your mother's beloved vocational path is this is how they can't fuck with us in a way. Being in an airplane has exposed your mother to cosmic rays and to more cosmic rays than they try to basically shelter us from. And so the only other shelter that they can do is psychological. And they're like, be afraid of the rays. When whether you're afraid or not doesn't change the fact that like it's divine. And so it's not lost on me that your mother was exposed to an above average environment of divinity and made you. Shed them like a snake. Congratulations on your healing. Your contribution in healing yourself in that manner in its own right is like a top of a singular pyramid that spreads down to us all, and healing what we call ourselves hardly gets closer to the one that we're all. You're gorgeous and super strong. Like, brave love. Thank you for doing that, for not giving up. That's really awesome. Or awe full, because it's more full of awe than some. It's like planet is essentially taking a plane and trying and then creating the illusion that what we do in it as a plan matters more than flying with each other. Absolutely. And in the fractal loving expression of the 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 the, the God underneath the title of it is our like crystal fractals of ourselves, placing ourselves next to each other, because we're aiming for the best, most love. So we aim for each other. You're really important. Yeah, tricks on them, because really, you're the smart one. In a little big way, you've made my day. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And now I can't say certainly if I'm going to make that other video, and I just might, because I've already won the ambition of my heart of the day in sharing with you and sharing what we've shared with us all. That is, I'm so ditto with you on that. Like all the way ditto. Like oted. Oted too. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable enough to be your truth in a way that you're like, how do I not? Well, I'd have to ask someone else. Much love to you. Much love to all. Because if my eyes have found you, then they're telling you that I love you. And asking you to make the choice to let me love you as much as I can. Which is a lot. Love. Talk soon. Because we're not done. All right. Peace and love.